Hi, welcome to my channel. Today, we've got an update story from our relationships where Op suspected her girlfriend was cheating on him with his best friend but instead caught his girlfriend with his neighbor, and is now trying to move on. This is an update story of our last video. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you do so, because the plot twists are going to blow your mind. Before we start, if you have any personal stories of how you got out of a toxic relationship with your cheating wife or girlfriend, that you want to share, feel free to email them to me. Let's get started. Original story. Well, I wasn't planning on updating, but a lot of you have prodded for one, and I do owe you guys after all the wonderful support I received. Once finals ended, I did well given the circumstances. Everything hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, almost worse than the initial insult. I removed all my social media pictures with her, threw out stuff that reminded me of her, took our songs off my playlists, yada yada. We've been inseparable since we met, so this was over 2 years of accumulated memories. Long story short, it was very hard, but I had an urge to get it all done before the new year. That whole cliche new year, new me thing. I guess. I don't know. Anyways, one particular Redditor sent me a message about how Alexis might be driven to suicide now that she's lost everything, her closest friends, her boyfriend, and her apartment. I know that seems like an overdramatic prediction, but I couldn't get it out of my mind after reading it. What Alexis did was freaking terrible, but I felt like a final conversation might give me better closure and maybe help her understand that it's completely over and get her to move on. So I planned to meet with her before everyone went home for break. A lot of you were big on icing her out, so I'm genuinely sorry to disappoint, but I had to do this for me. I sent Alexis, if you want to talk, we can meet up somewhere. But there's no way we can be together after what happened, so please don't ask, okay? She responded almost immediately asking when and where. We arranged to meet at an off-campus coffee place. When I got there, she was already at a table and got up to hug me. I waved her away and she jerked back like a puppy that had been kicked. I felt shitty immediately, but I wanted to get it over with. We made some stupid small talk. She asked how I'd been, how were finals, etc., but I sort of interrupted it. I asked her if she had been unhappy with our relationship. Her eyes got real wide and she said no. A bunch of times and got quiet. So I asked her why if she wasn't unhappy. She retold the story about having trouble saying no and him being so pushy. I stopped her and asked her to cut the BS and just take responsibility. That maybe it excused her actions up until he kissed her mid-sentence, but sex 3 times? Yeah. No. She looked down, shrugged, and muttered, "You're right, I know." At this point, she started tearing up and said she was so sorry, that I'd never understood how sorry she was. Then she asked if there was any chance we could be together again, which I was kind of expecting even though I told her not to. I just shook my head. I told her she could still live with Derek and Brooke if she wanted to, but she declined and told me she already had plans to move in with another girlfriend of hers. From here on out, the conversation went in circles with her trying to explain away her actions with her difficulty turning down guys due to her fear of being seen as a frigid bitch, and me trying to get her to admit that excuse was garbage. I don't know why, I just really needed her to stop using that crutch and admit she had ruined a perfectly good relationship with a very real future all on her own. But she just wouldn't. She was always stubborn. Finally, I let it go and we parted ways somewhat amicably. As I was leaving, she grabbed my hand and parted her lips to say something but ended up shaking her head and letting go. The conversation made me feel worse than I had before at first, but ultimately it made me see that she was never the kind of person I wanted to be with, even without the cheating. She never took responsibility for anything. Failed classes were because the professor was incompetent, not finding a job/internship was bad luck and not her lack of effort, etc. I just never really thought about it too hard. I think I was still in the honeymoon stage or something equals I'm an idiot sometimes. So at this point, I leave the coffee place and asked Derek to hang out. I ended up going to the apartment, and although Brooke was there, she mostly stayed in her room. We drank some beers and played some video games. It cheered me up. We also talked a bit about everything that happened. He admitted that they hadn't been able to find a third roommate, aside from strangers they'd rather not move in, and asked me again to stay with them. I could tell he wanted me to, and I felt guilty about them being stuck with the lease, so I accepted. I told them I needed to wait until Alexis took all her things though. The furniture is hers from before I even moved in, and I still don't want to sleep in that bed. Also, Brooke apologized for getting so involved in the situation and yelling at Alexis. Her stepdad had cheated on her mom and it's a sore subject for her. I told her I genuinely didn't mind and she was welcome to do it again if the mood struck her. I also bought Will some food and drinks at a great place near campus. A lot of you wanted to know the other shit Mark had done that had Will so pissed off. He had to be harassed to pay rent, claimed he couldn't contribute to any of the household expenses, like dish soap, light bulbs, cleaning supplies, and regularly came in yelling and laughing at odd hours and agreeing to keep it down then carrying on at the same volume. The standard douchebag roommate crap. Will is a cool guy. We talked a lot about the situation with Alexis but also about school and sports. It was pretty fun. I eventually did tell my folks about the situation and, as expected, my mom bombarded me with 1,000 questions and cried a lot. So that was fun. Going home made me feel a little better, but my older brother got engaged on Christmas Eve, and given the recent circumstances I wasn't as excited for him as I should have been, which made me feel like a shitty sibling. Plus it's all my family can talk about now and I'm just not in the mood. Life isn't perfect now, but I'm doing better. Alexis moved her shit out and I bought a second-hand bed and dresser off another student. I had my first round of classes last week, and although I'm going to sound like a total nerd, the courses are cool, hands-on, and the professors are incredibly cool people. Derek and Brooke have been supportive and don't make me feel like a third wheel at all. I saw Mark in the hallway once and he ignored me and I ignored him, but the urge to punch him in the face was very real. I guess that's something that will go away over time. I almost wanted to call him out on the whole thing, but with the kind of person Will had described, the conversation would have gotten me nowhere and probably pissed me off more. Sorry, this update isn't as exciting as the previous ones. Thank you for your love and support, Reddit. It helped me through such a bad time. Before we take a look at some replies by other Redditors, take a moment to like the video to show your support to the channel. Don't forget to leave your own opinion on the story in the comments down below. Now let's look at some comments. U/Li-Fi wrote, "You're a bigger man than I, dude. I've followed your story and I have to say I'd have lost my shit a lot earlier. The best thing is what everyone else has said, surround yourself with your friends and just slug it out. It'll all look up in the future." U/Wankers_remorse wrote, "You're a real class act, man. I hope if I ever get fucked over by some girl I care about, that I can handle it with as much class and restraint as you did." U/Tran408 wrote, "Man, like I want to punch Mark in the face for you. He wouldn't understand why it happened. To him it was just a stranger that asked him for the time and had a mean left hook. I was thinking of sending a PM to you wishing you well. I was digging through my old comments to find the thread, but luckily this is up here. Good job, Op, and hopefully you'll find someone better for you." U/1yearwonder wrote, "I knew a guy like Mark once. He moved to a larger city and got stabbed within a week for pulling that shit with the wrong people. I felt bad for his mom, but I wasn't surprised. Let's all just hope that something similar happens to your Mark too. People like that don't get to enjoy their lives." Much like how Alexis couldn't take responsibility for her bullshit, and therefore was always confused as to why life was so hard, people like Mark are always having issues and can't ever figure it out. Living like that is its punishment. But maybe not as satisfying as clocking him would be. It is slightly comforting though, knowing what kind of bullshit people like that put themselves through. U/They, see, me, learnin'. You're right, you would never understand how sorry she is because you didn't do this to your partner, she did. Start rebuilding yourself, ground up. You don't want to attract another girl like that. I don't know if you run but run. I don't know if you lift but lift. Put yourself out there. Start climbing, writing, anything to expand yourself while you take off from here. Even though the relationship ended disastrously, don't ever think that you completely wasted 2 years. You learned so much about being a partner and a roommate, and you learned that you have the self-respect to throw somebody like this out of your life for being a douchebag. You enjoyed most of that time, regardless of what was going on behind your back. Do not ever think that it was your fault, and never look back. Cheers, man. I wish I could take you out on the town or something." U/Start0va wrote, "Every time you're feeling down, just remember what a huge bullet you dodged. I've followed this story from the beginning and it breaks my heart that you're still so down, although I completely understand why you are. People who can't take responsibility for their actions are at a whole other level of immaturity. It's like something crucial to the maturing of the rest of us just never developed in them. It's something that takes a lot of work, which is why a lot of addiction groups focus so much on recognition and reconciliation. But, I digress. Next time you are missing her or feeling down, just imagine your future with her, even if she hadn't cheated. You two are married and one of the credit cards has been maxed out, but it's the credit card company's fault because they gave you too low of a limit. One of your kids gets a bad grade because of the teacher, not that she didn't help them with their homework. And when she runs out of other people to blame, it will always come back to you. You will always be at fault since she cannot own blame, which will build resentment. So, next time you're feeling down, be happy about the future you know have wide open to make for yourself. It sounds to me like you were a good boyfriend that did nothing wrong. She was just horny and enjoyed being desired by some strange. As a 24-year-old woman, I can relate to that. But there is a very thick, rigid, dark line between harmless flirting and acting on your body's every physical desire. She did not and will not ever respect you as a person, and you are better off without her. I know you've heard it before, but you need to hear it again. And again. And again. And again. Please, please, please keep reminding yourself of that. You deserve the happiness and respect that she is incapable of providing. You are better off without her. You/throw a 99038 avatar. You handled it like a champ once again. Too bad even after this Alexis refuses to take responsibility. She may not have learned anything from her mistakes. Maybe this will teach you to not get involved with a woman who does not take responsibility for her actions. You/Alexa wrote. You're a good dude. About a year or two from now you're going to look back on this whole thing and think, the perils of being 22, this shit happens so often during that age, mostly because people are irresponsible idiots who've never faced dire consequences to their actions before, and situations like this usually set them on a proper trajectory for the first time in their lives. You'll be better for suffering this heartbreak now instead of for the first time at 30, trust me. You/Limpinator wrote. Wow man, thanks for the update. After reading all your stories I feel kinda sad to see that this is the last one. If that's true, I wish you the best of luck in the future, man. I'm happy that you are taking this well and glad to see you back up on your feet. Take care, man, and don't worry. Your future wife is somewhere out there. You just haven't found her yet. What do you think about all of this? Do you think OP will be able to move on from this? Did you find this final update to be satisfying? Let us know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. Hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss an upload.